Happy Monday, everybody. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. I'm Sweets. This is Sid. And on our Monday calls, we always talk about what we're going to be shipping this week. To get started, today we officially launched V5 of the AI SDK by Vercel. From the end customer experience, what you're going to see with that are more robust usage of our LLMs. The biggest change you're going to see as a customer is that we have changed our LLM model from Anthropic Claude 3.7 Sonnet to Google's Gemini 2.5 Flash, a much newer model with a higher context limit, which is going to mean that if you are creating artists or if you are a manager, record label exec, independent artist, producer, singer, songwriter, and you're using Recoup, you're not going to hit rate limits like you did before. Claude Anthropic's limit for context was 200,000 tokens. Google's Gemini is 1 million tokens. So you can now have a 5x longer conversation, 5x more context, and the chats will continue. Before you were seeing rate limit errors, you won't see those anymore. Slowly, we've been making some other changes. If you find any bugs, please let us know. My main focus for this week is reducing our rate limits down to 0. So far since the shipment, I have not seen any rate limits, but I have not dug deep into Supabase. So far feeling on track with that goal. And what I'm going to be doing the rest of this week is fixing bugs that are showing up, optimizing the code base, making sure that this big migration puts us in a stable foundation so that we can keep the momentum going on the latest version of all the tech that we need to be using. Passing it over to you, Sid.
Sweet. So I am focused on messing with bugs or trying to find bugs. I sent a couple in the chat earlier. I don't know if you saw them. Well, it's bugs and then just like performance downgrades that I find. So the performance downgrades we're going to have to try to replicate and see if how often they happen. For example, one of the chats told me when I was running a agent that to please stand by as it goes and does research, but then just like stopped. And so as a user who does, if I didn't know the back end, I would have just kind of just waited in perpetuity for it to do nothing. So just trying to figure out how often it does that. I also think it's like a Gemini thing with, like you said, you have to push it to continue on autopilot. So that was one thing that was a downgrade that we need to mess around with. Another thing that was a downgrade, not necessarily a bug, was I got an error. I don't know if it's a bug or an error. I guess this one is, which I just saw, which is, let me share it with you. I went to send an email. Where are we? Where's Telegram? Here it is. So I went to send an email and it gave me an error, invalid input for tool send email. So it's doing something wrong with the sending of the email. Mm-hmm. Again, I think this is just like Gemini, not under, like, we've written everything for Claude, so we might need to just redo some stuff for Gemini. The question that I have is, when we're approaching these little fixes for Gemini, now that we've kind of gone through different models, is the mental model to like fix it for Gemini, or is the mental model, how do we fix it for any model? So that if we do choose to change models or let the user change models in the middle of a conversation, they don't hit the same issues. So that wasn't a question that I had for you. But you don't have to answer it just like that. Was just one of my most important questions. The main thing that I'm focused on, other than just kind of testing and bugs, is setting up Rostrum's artists for all of the calls I had last week, emailing a bunch of the users from last week, getting them to use stuff more, and updating the admin portal to include agent template tracking, so we can see how many people are using agent templates and which ones they're using. Is that the only thing? I think there was one more thing, but what was it? Oh, the one other thing was last week I did a demo for somebody and set up a scheduled action on the call with them for one of their artists. And then this morning I looked at my email and realized that like I was getting like 5 of the same scheduled action emails for that artist. Again, this was version 4. But so my assumption was that like the scheduled action was including the scheduled action in the prompt with it. So it was like also creating a scheduled action and also doing things. So I know going into V5 it's different and it's Gemini now. So I just want to just be conscious of that, like how the model performs with scheduled actions, and like, are any of our users getting like what's it called? Just doubling their scheduled actions every day? If so, how do we fix that? But yeah, that's my week. How you feeling?
Any of those points something that we still have 8 minutes left. So is there any of those points you would like to spend more time on?
I'll throw it to you.
The one that I wrote down is how do we fix these bugs for any LLM? And I think one of the things to note is we did a really big change and we didn't have to change too much of the tools. We did the upgrade from V4 to V5, which was the big swap, but then me swapping from Claude to Gemini was more or less a one-line change. And the email tool bug, we already had email tool bugs using Anthropic, so we already needed to make it better. So I would argue we are already thinking really well on building this agnostic for any LLM. And moving to V5 is further doubling down on that we should be able to swap out an LLM very easily. We were able to keep the plane flying and swap out from Claude to Gemini, and the plane's still flying. And the bugs that I'm seeing are bugs that the email tool already existed. The artist name, profile name, I have not seen that. I haven't seen it yet, so I need to check out your video. But if those are the biggest bugs, those are simple things that a junior dev can fix and gives us a great launchpad to keep moving forward. Like, do we want to try out a different model? We can run a different model in a single day, swap out the name. All we have to do now is swap out the name. It's a one-line change to change any model, unless it requires, so one line to change the name. And then if there's provider options, like for Google, we have to configure thinking. We also had to configure thinking for Anthropic. That's a 2-line change. So we're up to a total of 3 lines. Google also required us to import a new package at AI/Google, I believe. So that was a new package. So you have to install a new package, change the string of the model name, and then add in any missing types in our configuration for thinking. And then everything else just works. So if we decide to try out the Alibaba model, or let's try out DeepSeek model, or let's try out, as a new model comes out, we can just very quickly, let's swap to it. And we also can very easily make up conditions for doing it. Like, is this person subscribed? Use this model. If they're not subscribed, use this model. Are they using a scheduled action? Use this model for scheduled actions. If they're not using, if it's a normal chat, use this model. And so now we can run and iterate on the name much faster than we could before. But I think we're in a good place in terms of already building agnostic for any LLM. I think it's a great question. And how do you feel we have failed to properly build agnostically across any LLM?
I don't think we failed. I think we're just at like yeah, like I think, I guess my thought is coming from the user's perspective, of being able to pick and choose models, depending on the task.
We could do that as well. I mean, Vercel has an option for us to get all models. So what we could do is just put in a drop down, query what are all the available models from Vercel, and then let the human decide as Vercel rolls out more models. We don't have to make any updates to our code. Automatically in that function call, it'll get updated, and then it becomes the responsibility of the end customer to, there's a new model, I want to try it. It's already in the dropdown. I select it, I use it. The question that comes into my mind is, are we okay with customers using any model? If I had the option and it wasn't going to change my billing, I would just select whatever the most expensive model is, rack up Recoup's billing, and just be happy that I'm not being fronted with those costs. Have you considered what the cost implications would be of allowing the end human to just pick whatever model they want?
No. I see what you're saying, and you're right. I don't think we should do that yet, especially since we haven't set up the credits, and the paywalls and stuff like that. So like maybe that's next, and we wait. But I think I think we're doing a good job. My main thought was like improvements of like being able to, what's the word I'm looking for? I think if I was able, which I guess I am able to now, it would just take a little bit more time and PRs to run evals. But if I was able to on platform be able to run, when I say evals, I just mean like take an agent tab and run it on Gemini 2.5, 4003, this, and then be able to see how each agent performs in different models. I can start doing the manual labor of like, okay, when it's email searching, we need to use this. When it's drafting emails, we should probably use this model. Like, and I can start manually doing that. Right now, it's not easy to switch the models, or at least I haven't sat down and tried to switch the models. But I think let's continue the path that we're on and not overthink this. Let's continue the path that we're on and not overthink the models for now.
To share a little bit more context of the business side implications, before, as of like 8 a.m. today, so 4 hours ago, when we were using Claude Sonnet 3.7, we were seeing 5 cents per thought. Each of these is a thought. So like a response and then a tool call, and then it responds and then it's another tool call. So response and tool call, 5 cents, response and tool call, 5 cents. And so if you ask one prompt, like create an artist, it's potentially going to cost, add these numbers up, quick math, maybe $1 here, just for one single query, $1. When we move up to Gemini 2.5 Flash, we see a penny, less than a penny, maximum of a penny here across all these thoughts. So maybe you get up to like 4 cents. So instead of it being $1 from the business side on our burn rate, going down to like a penny up to maybe 4 cents per prompt, which is much different. And then if we try to find what the most expensive thing is that we've seen, for some reason, a couple people saw Claude 3.7 Sonnet. Maybe this was Veerball on local testing. And then we come up and we see more and more Gemini 2.5. And the most expensive that I've seen is here with 3 cents. So the most, that's Claude at 8 cents. So Gemini, the most expensive single query that I've seen is 3 cents. Meanwhile, you see Anthropic not even working too hard, getting up to 8 cents. Down earlier on today, we were seeing queries that were doing 19 cents, 11 cents. Just the scale is way different in terms of what we're being charged. The hypothesis that I'm operating under is the cost of thought, the cost of an LLM is going to continue to go down over time. So when you look overall at the models, Anthropic continues to increase their costs. If you use Claude 4, it's an order of magnitude higher cost. And so I'm slowly leaning away from the models that are increasing their cost over time, like Anthropic, and leaning more into the models that are working on decreasing the costs and leaning into that hypothesis that thinking is going to go down in cost over time. The cost to compute, the cost to think is going to go down. And so companies like Google that are leaning into, they've heavily invested in TPUs, they are increasing their context window, they are decreasing their costs. Alibaba, DeepSeek, any company that is leaning into that hypothesis, I'm more interested in, as opposed to the OpenAI and the Anthropic that are increasing their costs more. We'll probably put them in select use cases where we really need to pay for that, where Sid's saying that the quality is potentially decreased. I think that decrease in quality is a temporal thing. And the more we build on top of these, the more we build on. I'm thinking about it earlier today. I actually think it's a simpler model, and we have to do more tweaking on the system prompt. But I think that is like, you're paying for their curation on that system prompt. And so if we're willing to do a little bit of extra work on the system prompt, Gemini is a more base, unbiased model for us to do that on. It's simpler right out of the box, but it gives us that creative space for us to customize the system prompt. Meanwhile, Anthropic is great right out of the box, but you're paying for that extra curation that they're doing on their side. And so like you might say, wow, it's so much better, when in reality, it's just like, it's a different system prompt that they're doing that they have hidden behind the scenes. And you're paying for that extra little bit of curation that they did, when you could do it yourself on 2.5 or on these other models. You just gotta, it's what everybody says with these LLMs. The results you're going to get are going to be based off of the prompts that you're doing, either as the end customer, us as the business, and the LLM. There's different layers, and each one has its own prompt. And that's a little bit of how I'm thinking about this.
Did you watch that video I sent you called Context Engineering?
Likely not. Is that the one you? No, I have not watched any.
It's really fire. It talks very much about what you're talking is just. AI engineering is all just basically context engineering, and how can you give each call of the LLM the correct context required to get the best results, and how do you just build the systems? How do you engineer context at the end of the day?
On my side, the next 24 hours, I'm going to work on the email tool bug and artist profile name bug, both the things that Sid sent, and slowly start thinking about the bigger things that Sid's saying of pricing, billing, and being able to swap out LLM models. Nothing actionable on those yet, but starting to plant the seeds. Anything you want to wrap up with on your side?
Nope, I'm all good. I got to jump to a call, so I will see you on Wednesday. Hit me up. Peace, peace, peace.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.